Hey, what's going on? It's Saturday, and we have come to Winston-Salem for the weekend, or at least one day and one night. We swung by Incendiary Brewing to chat with the folks behind the bar. We're going to come hang out here a little bit later. I wanted to tell you a little bit about this place and the significance of the building that Incendiary is in. It's basically located in the basement of the building, which is the historical coal pit for the R.J. Reynolds power plant. R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company was very influential in this town and helped build a lot of it. And even lured a university away, or a college I should say, away from Wake Forest, which is now Wake Forest University, located here in Winston-Salem. So we'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Just wanted to show you the inside of Incendiary before we move on to the next thing. They do some barrel-aged beers here, which is what you saw on the wall there with the barrels. We're going to walk outside now and kind of show you what is left from the historical part of this facility. Above me is rails that they used to use to bring the coal in to dump into the pit where Incendiary is now. There's, I believe, definitely some commercial businesses also in this building, and possibly some residential. It's a pretty tall building, but anyway, I'm gonna just kind of show you what we've got back here with the historical rails on both sides, and then walk you out here into the rest of what we got going on. And I say we've got going on. I don't have anything going on here, but these businesses do, and Winston-Salem and developers have done a really nice job with turning lots of these historical buildings in the area, redoing them and kind of bringing them back to life. And yeah, it's a lot of work went into all this. This looks a little bit rough, but I assume they just left most of this for historical purposes. Yeah, there's a pizzeria in there, coffee, F45, I have no idea what that is, and of course Incendiary. There's residential around here, and also plenty of other historical buildings. And just quickly, I'll get into a little bit more about R.J. Reynolds and how they got Wake Forest University to leave Wake Forest, North Carolina, and come to Winston-Salem. I don't know all the details, but I know they gave them a bunch of land, and the Reynolds family invested heavily here in education, health care. I've got a cheat sheet that I probably should have brought with me. But I'll fill you in on a few more details later on. And we're going to head over to our hotel, which is the historic Brooktown Inn. Obviously another historic building here in Winston-Salem. We'll show you that. We're going to do a nice long walk today and show you some of the significant buildings in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Okay, so we've kind of walked out of the compound where Incendiary was located. There's a couple of smoke towers here that are historical. Here's the first one. It says RJR Tobacco Company, TOB at least, short for tobacco. Here's the other one. And interestingly enough, my first job was in eastern North Carolina at 10 years old in the tobacco field. So I probably have cropped some tobacco that has come through this place a long time ago. They don't do any of the tobacco stuff right here anymore, but people still smoke and dip and whatever else you do with tobacco. I don't know, put it on a bee sting maybe. Behind us here, that's part of Wake Forest. I don't know that there's a historical significance there, but the Piedmont Leaf Lofts over there across the street, that's a historic building that is now residential. All right, so we're moving along a little bit. Winston-Salem it's pretty small for a downtown. It's not what I would call a party scene. It's kind of professional, even though there isn't a young crowd here. I think the university has a lot of employees probably, and other corporations. There's some banking here, and yeah, it's just a fun place to come for the weekend. And if you're into brewing beer, at least, and there's no shortage of that here. And you're pretty close to the Yadkin Valley, which is a kind of the wine part of wine country for North Carolina. It's a beautiful part of the country. You could always stay here, cruise up the Yadkin Valley. All right, I'm in my truck now, and before I head over to the historic Brookstown Inn, I've got a cheat sheet, and I'm gonna read a few things here. It began as a Salem Manufacturing Company mill in 1837, one of the first in the South to use electric lighting. After functioning as a mill and later a warehouse, it was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1977 and began its transformation into the inn through a rehabilitation project in 1978. Today, the hotel preserves its historical character with original mill features like exposed brick and wooden beams while offering modern amenities. The key points, just got this off the internet, of course. Francis Fries built the Salem Manufacturing Company on the mill site. It was a successful cotton mill and was one of the first buildings in North Carolina to have electricity. We talked about that a little bit, but and also about the tobacco that I worked in as a child. And yeah, it was child labor, but it wasn't illegal at that time, and it was voluntary as well. So it was good times. But agriculture has been so critical, and still is critical to not just the South, but the world. I mean, it's where food comes from, and textiles, and there's just so many things that come from agriculture. So anyway, post mills, it later became a warehouse and was occupied by an electric company and a tobacco company. Okay, I think maybe a restaurant space was added in 1984. 30 rooms were added in 91, and in 2013 the main building underwent a renovation. And apparently the hotel preserves its industrial chic character with exposed brick walls, wooden ceilings, and original architecture element from the mill, while also providing, again, modern comforts and amenities. And I've stayed here before, and definitely wanted to come back and spend a little more time in the hotel looking around. All right, we've gotten checked in. We're standing in the lobby now and gonna walk out to the courtyard here in just a minute, but wanted to show y'all this old cigarette machine. I don't know if there's such a thing as a cigarette machine anymore. Probably not, and that's probably a good thing. So anyway, headed out to to the courtyard. Let me show you the hall here. Got a lot of exposed pipes, which, you know, historical buildings kind of work out that way. Oh. I don't know if the visitor center is open today or not since it's Saturday, but we're going to take a peek and see. All right, well, the main entrance is at the front. We're getting ready to walk out on Brookstown Avenue, and I don't know, I think we're headed north. We're going that way. I want to show you a couple of things while we're here. There's a really cool, I think it's a house. I'm not 100% sure, but the last time I was here, which was probably, gosh, almost 2 years ago, I noticed someone just hanging out front of this thing, and that's what makes me think it's a house. So it's right next to the hotel. This little building here on the corner is pretty much triangle shaped. Kind of be a strange place to live, but still pretty cool. I wonder, it's probably had something to do with the mill at some point, with either tobacco or textiles, or who knows. Here's the back of it. There's another historical building here, the mill at Tar Branch offices. So yeah, a lot of this stuff has been updated and converted to office and residential, depending on, I guess, zoning. Oh yeah, there's a window unit up there, which makes me wonder if somebody lives upstairs. Got a bakery here in another historic building, and yeah, that's it for this spot. But we're getting ready to go across the interstate. And by the way, we're walking about 1.5 miles north. It's something I really enjoy doing, whether I'm hiking in the woods or come to a new city. Of course, in cities you always need to kind of know where you're going, know what the history is, know what the crime rates are. I don't know about rates necessarily, but I always ask at the hotel, you know, if it's safe to walk. There's been times where I have been told not really. So that's something that's pretty important, because whatever, if somebody attacks you or even threatens you, that can kind of ruin your weekend. So always keep that in mind. So that big building over here to my right, I'm pretty sure that's the original R.J. Reynolds building. I've got some notes on when it was built way a long time ago, and the architect that built this building also did the Empire State Building, but this one was done first. So they took the inspiration from here and put it up north, and, you know, did a few extra things to it, I believe. I'm sure it's obviously a lot taller than this one, but this is a pretty big building, especially for something that was built not long ago. Like I said, I've got some cheat sheets and I'll be reading some notes and filling you in on how Winston, North Carolina and Salem, North Carolina became one. You've got these really nice random homes all over the city in downtown. Most of them are probably businesses at this point, but as you can probably tell by the design, it's been around a while. This tall bluish building is glass and obviously not a historical building. I should probably stop saying obviously all the time, but obviously that one is not historical. But we're gonna try to do better with that, because assuming something's obvious is obviously not the right way to speak. This looks like one of the main streets here. A lot of old buildings. And you know, one thing I've noticed is there's a lot of stuff for rent and for lease, which is a shame. I assume that maybe some places are going out of business. But welcome to 2025. You know, one thing I've noticed about Winston-Salem is it's very clean for an urban downtown. You don't always get that, of course, but it's nice to see, and most of the folks that you run into, or if you strike up a conversation with anybody, it's pretty friendly, laid-back vibe here. All right, so after turning off, I should have looked at the name of the street, but it was a main street. I don't know if it's actually named Main Street, but I've definitely run into a lot of closed businesses just off that area. Kind of run down and dilapidated. We're going to cross the road here. Keep walking up this street. It looks like there's some nice clean buildings. Not sure what this building is, but it has definitely been here a while. Millennium Center. Yeah, definitely a historic building at least. All right, so we're on the back side of where we were earlier today at Incendiary. And it's kind of opening up here up on this next block. You see, it's still, well, there's definitely some things that are closed, but certainly were open and businesses at one point, and hopefully they will be businesses again someday soon. It may be, well, what a wild place. You see, there used to be some kind of ceiling there, or roof, a roof structure, and now it's just kind of an opening, almost like a big cubby hole. So anyway, here's some more historical buildings. There's some apartments that are not. Those are definitely new. And then we've got old, probably warehouses, and it looks at this point like they may be commercial. Yeah, see, one says it's lost. Could even be some residential in there, of course. Obviously where the lofts are, it's definitely residential, but yeah, really interesting old buildings. Got one for lease here. I don't know if the roof is actually round up top. We're gonna try to walk around and see, but You know, somebody with a creative mind and some money. Gotta have money, gotta have credit. Could probably turn that into something pretty cool. We've got another old building here on our right, which used to be AC Delco Automotive Associates, which I don't know if that place is even in business anymore. The company AC Delco, I remember it from a long time ago. It's got outside of it AstroTurf, picnic tables, looks like a stage. We're gonna cut across the block here and see if we can figure out what this is. Here's another old building that has brand new commercial and office up front. It looks like even definitely businesses in the back here. Whatever it is, it's been around a while, that's for sure. Looks like I've found the not so clean part of Winston-Salem, which it's not bad, but it's just, you know, there doesn't seem to be too much going on right here. We're coming up to one of the major roads and going to be taking a right. So we're going to cross right now. As with all historic industrial towns, you're going to have train tracks. That was kind of the main way to move commerce long time ago. We're going to be taking a left up here, going pretty close to under that tower. I'm guessing this was a gas station a long time ago. Could be something really cool again, but it is not in great shape, especially inside. Yeah, here's probably your, where you walk in the front door, and here's your two bays where they would work on your car. No gas pumps at this point, and maybe there never were, but anyway, it's a pretty cool spot. I want to show you this too while I'm here. Thank you for smoking. Thank you for scrolling. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. Wheels on the bus go round and round. Alright, so yeah, this big water tower is right, kind of towers over Radar Brewing here. So we're going to go inside for a little bit and check it out, see what it looks like. Just a quick peek there in Radar Brewing. They have a food truck, and yeah, it's a pretty cool place on the north side of town. After we're done here, we're going to walk back down toward Incendiary. I don't know if you can see the two historical smoke towers, smokestacks off in the distance. That's where we'll be heading later on. All right, so we're at Radar. We sat down with our cheat sheet and our notes. Snagged a half pour of the chai porter, which is very nice, chocolatey, dry, and that spice from the chai. I don't exactly know what a chai is, but I don't guess it matters. All right, so Salem, North Carolina and Winston, North Carolina were two separate things. Salem was founded by a Moravian colonists, I should say, in 1753 from the present-day Czech Republic and Germany. It's a Protestant denomination. They purchased a 100,000-acre tract of land, which they called Wachovia. After establishing temporary settlements, they laid out the permanent central town of Salem from the Hebrew word shalom, meaning peace, in 1776. Community life was unique, of course. I can only imagine everything was probably pretty unique. Planned community where the Moravian Church owned all the property for many years and only church members could live there. It became known for its skilled artisans and craftsmen, playing a vital role in supplying goods during the American Revolution. Preservation. The historic core of the original town has been preserved and restored as Old Salem Museums and Garden, a nationally recognized living history museum. All right, so on to now we'll talk a little bit about Winston, North Carolina. It was founded 1 mile north of Salem. The town of Winston was founded in 1849 to serve as the county seat for the newly formed Forsyth County. It was named after Major Joseph Winston, a local Revolutionary War hero. Industrial growth. Initially a sleepy county town, Winston boomed after the Civil War, driven by the arrival of the railroad and growth of the tobacco industry. Gotta have you back here, especially back then. Industry leaders, major industrial figures including Pleasant H. Haynes, who started a textile company. I assume that was like Haynes underwear and shirts, but that doesn't seem to be the case, even though he started a textile company. And also, and most importantly, I guess, at this point, Richard Joshua Reynolds, also known as R.J. Reynolds. He founded the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company in 1875. The success of R.J. Reynolds Camel cigarettes made Winston-Salem the largest city in North Carolina by 1920. I also remember seeing as a kid, I don't pay attention to cigarettes at this point. I don't know why I did then. But anyway, there was a brand called Winston-Salem as well. So the merger and the modern era of the two cities. The two towns, with their differing religious and industrial characters, grew together to officially merge in 1913 referendum to become Winston-Salem. While tobacco and textiles dominated for much of the 20th century, a process of diversification began in the latter half of the century. Today, the city's economy has shifted towards healthcare and technology, centered around institutions like Wake Forest University and the Innovation Quarter, earning it the nickname the City of Arts and Innovation. I know I mentioned a little bit ago about how R.J. Reynolds lured Wake Forest University away from Wake Forest, North Carolina by offering them land and I don't know what else. Obviously, there's that word again. Clearly he had a vision for the city, bringing in the university. Obviously he had tobacco company and just farming, agriculture, I should say, and just had a real vision for what this place could be and knew that education was an important part of it. So yeah, it's kind of, I'm assuming that's what motivated him in some way. Currently, Winston-Salem is home to several higher education institutions, including Salem College, the oldest women's educational institution in the U.S., Winston-Salem State University, and Wake Forest University. It also established the first permanent arts council in the United States in 1949. All right, I'm going to finish this part of the recording today with a little bit about R.J. Reynolds. He was born in 1850 on a large tobacco plantation in Patrick County, Virginia. Tall and solidly built, RJ impressed his family with his energy and keen wit, but he was often underestimated by others because of a lifelong stammer and difficulty with spelling, an indicator he may have been dyslexic. Reynolds began manufacturing tobacco in 1873, first in a log cabin on the plantation and then in the upstart country village of Winston, North Carolina, population 443. He was primarily attracted to the area, he said, by the benefit of railroad facilities and on account of this being located in the center of the belt in which the finest tobacco in the world is grown. You know, I don't think that's the case anymore. As I understand it, most of the tobacco is shifted to my home state of Georgia because of irrigation. Apparently there's not a lot of irrigation in this area for some reason. I know it's a huge investment, but South Georgia has what we call straws in the ground all over the place. I'm sure at some point that's going to be a problem with the aquifer, but that's not for me to decide. So anyway, oh wow. Built with 7,500 he had brought from Virginia, which I'm sure that was a lot more money than it is today. His Little Red factory began producing plug chewing tobacco on a 100-foot lot. Reynolds experimented with blending tobacco varieties and sweeteners, and he advertised aggressively throughout the United States. Thank you for smoking, thank you for chewing, thank you for dipping. Prince Albert became the nation's most popular pipe tobacco. Camel cigarettes, following in 1913, became the highest selling cigarette. The population of Winston-Salem grew 90-fold, becoming the largest city in North Carolina between the arrival of R.J. Reynolds' covered wagon in 1874 and his death in 1918. The company was led by a trusted managerial class that included several of his brothers and nephews. African-American workers formed the majority of the payroll. These employees were attracted to the burgeoning tobacco factories by the relatively high wages and fair working conditions. R.J. Reynolds also should be a period there, there's a comma. R.J. Reynolds, no, there is a period. Anyway, R.J. Reynolds also contributed to churches, hospitals, and a medical school for African Americans, ensuring a stable workforce to his tobacco empire. R.J. Reynolds remained a bachelor to the age of 54 when he married Catherine Smith. Together, they developed Rinalda. In 1917, at the age of 67, R.J. and his family moved to Rinalda, but he died the following year from what is now believed to have been pancreatic cancer. Say that real fast once. The tobacco baron was remembered for his even-handedness in dealing with employees and competitors. One obituary claimed that R.J., with all his prestige and wealth, is as plain and as modest as a country boy. R.J.'s tobacco factories contributed significantly to the industrial renewal of the so-called New South and helped bring prosperity to an entire region. Got Barcelona Burger Bar and looking at the desserts, but not going to be doing this. But man, coconut cake, German chocolate cake, red velvet, carrot cake, strawberry, shortcake, lemon and blueberry cheesecake, Oreo cheesecake, just on and on. Pineapple cake. Yeah. I'm running into these things everywhere I go, and I'm not sure, but it might be like a fake tattoo or something like that. A set of cigarettes, which is probably a pretty good swap. It's going to give you a little view of what it looks like down here at night. I don't know how good the lighting's going to be, but here it is anyway. Yeah, this is basically where we started today, close to Incendiary Brewing and the old R.J. Reynolds power plant. So yeah, like I said, if you get to the area or are looking for something to do that's fun, this is a good place. There's lots of families here, which is pretty unique. You don't see that in a lot of places anymore, but it gives you some hope for the future.